Today we're going to learn how to find the slope of a line. You should be on page 58 in your notes packet. To find the slope of a line, the first thing you would do is locate 2 points that have different coordinates. Next, you are going to create a fraction that has a rise and run. Then you simplify your rise and run. The next thing you have to do is really focus on whether the slope of your line is positive or negative and make sure you put all of that together. So if you look at this line, you notice it's just a line and it doesn't show you specific points, which means you have to find points on that line. Now, technically, any point is a point on this line, but for you to be able to count using the graph, you want to find a point that intersects one of these grids right here in a corner. So if you have a point here in the middle, that's not really going to help you. But if you have a point right here, you can see that it's where 2 of these grids come together, and that helps you count. So when we look at this line, I see that I have a point that's right here. So I'm going to use this point. And then if I keep going, that's not a point that's in a corner, so I'm not going to use that. So I keep going. That point is also not in a corner, so I'm not going to use that. But then if I get down here, this point is in a corner, so I'm going to use this. Now, for me to do my rise over run, I'm going to find my vertical change. So that's how am I going from here to here, up or down? Well, I'm going down. So I'm going down 1, 2 units. So that means I have a rise of -2. Then I have to go to the right. So I'm going to go to the right 1, 2, 3 units. Because I went right, that's a +3. So this is -2 over 3. Well, that is just a slope of, sorry, I didn't mean to go past that. So that is a slope of just -2/3. Now, try to find the slope from this graph. When you find 2 points on this graph, you'll notice that there's a point right here, and there's another point right here. Well, if I'm doing rise over run, I know that I'm going up 1, 2 units. Because I go up, that's a +2. Then I have to go right 1 unit, and because I'm going right, that's a +1. Well, 2 divided by 1 is 2, so that means this line has a slope of 2. Now, we can also find the slope between 2 points. When you're finding the slope, the first thing you want to do is label your x and y values. So that doesn't mean just say this is x and this is y. You have a point here, and this is going to be point 1. Then you have a point that is point 2. So we really call this x sub 1 and y sub 1 because this is the x value from your first point, and this is your y value from your first point. Then this would be called x sub 2, and this would be called y sub 2. And that's because this is the x value from your second point, and this is the y value from your second point. Then you're just going to plug your numbers into the formula. Well, this is the formula that you use. We are going to take y sub 2 and subtract y sub 1, then x sub 2 and subtract x sub 1. So in this case, y sub 2 is 25, so we're going to do 25 here minus y sub 1, which is 17. Then x sub 2, which is 13, minus x sub 1, which is 9. So to find our slope, we're doing 25 minus 17 over 13 minus 9. Next, you are going to subtract and then simplify. Well, when you do 25 minus 17, you are going to get 8. And when you do 13 minus 9, you're going to get 4. Well, 8 divided by 4 gives us 2, so that means that our slope is 2. Now you try this one. The first thing we would do is label these as x sub 1 and y sub 1, and then x sub 2 and y sub 2. To find slope, we're using that formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So in this case, we're going to do 22 minus 7 over 3 minus negative 2. And you have to be careful with those negatives. Well, 22 minus 7 gives us 15. And 3 minus negative 2 gives us positive 5. So this really says 15 divided by 5, which is 3. So that means that the line that goes through these points has a slope of 3. Now we're going to find the slope from a table. So the first thing that we're going to do is find our 2 sets of coordinates. So we are just using 2 sets of coordinates. So identify 2 coordinates from the table that you can use. Then plug those numbers into the same exact formula. So when I do this, always just try to be easy on myself and use the first set. That would make that this value my first x value and this my first y value. And this would be my second x value and this would be my second y value. So if I plugged this into my formula, y sub 2 is going to be negative 2 minus y sub 1, which is negative 8. Then x sub 2, which is negative 1, minus x sub 3, which is negative 3. Then I just solve. So at this point, we are going to subtract and then simplify our equation or our fraction. If we do negative 2 minus negative 8, that actually gives us positive 6. Then negative 1 minus negative 3 gives us positive 2. If we do 6 divided by 2, we're going to get 3. So that means that this has a slope of 3. Now you try the next table. For this table, if we chose just the first 2 coordinates, this would be x1 and y1. This would be x2 and y2. So to find our slope, we're going to use that same formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, our y2 is 1 and our y1 is negative 3, so we would do 1 minus negative 3. And then our x sub 2 is negative 1 and our x sub 1 is negative 2. So we would do negative 1 minus negative 2. 1 minus negative 3 is going to give us 4. Then negative 1 minus negative 2 is going to give us 1. Well, if we do 4 divided by 1, we're going to get 4. So that means the slope of the line for this table is 4.